This is the North End. This is the North End.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the North End, a Premier League YouTube channel thing run by a bunch of guys who are also things. With me today and rocking a caramel khaki, which he loves, David Convery, back from a private retreat in the islands of Bermuda. I don't know. I got nothing. And joining me from some sort of OnlyFans account, Luke Connolly. And then joining me from what I can only assume is sweltering heat is JP California, who will be at some point during this broadcast mounted by a dog.
Probably.
Gentlemen, how are you all?
Well, that's actually my OnlyFans content. So that's JP being mounted by dogs. So.
Can we talk about how often JP brings up the heat in the first minute of the podcast? Usually, or the channel.
That's the go-to.
It's so hot. You live in California. It should be hot.
Yeah, like,
all the time.
How long have you been there? Like
my whole life, dude. That's why it's so brutal. I've seen snow 5 times in my life.
Come up north.
Did you run away? Yeah. What is JP California's reaction to snow?
Yeah. And
it's
only like
ash from a fire.
Ash from a fire. Do you want to say it,
JP? It was not. God.
That's just good banter.
He's like, I have relatives in Michigan. I saw it once.
I have no relatives in any snowy state.
Did any of you gentlemen catch any of the Champions League today? Before we dig into the Premier League, because that's what we are.
A little bit.
Show, blah blah blah.
I saw Liverpool ripping the ass out of Rangers.
Yeah,
I watched that all day.
The big story, I think, was Barcelona and Inter Milan, and I don't know what's going on at Barcelona. Not doing well, but I kind of love it because I kind of hate them now, just because the way they've acted the past couple of months. So that was great.
Such a risk, and I don't think we've really considered how big of a risk that. Like, I was reading up, they've sold something like 2.5 billion of TV rights for about 250 million.
25% of what they own, they've sold this past summer.
That is wild. And if that's a huge gamble, and if that doesn't pay off, like they could genuinely go under. Genuinely,
they think they're too big to fail. It's the same with Real Madrid. The whole La Liga, they're coming back again. I don't want to go way off topic, but they're going to try the Super League thing again. It's just a financial disaster.
100%.
Well, they are. It's being reported already. But
we're all taking secret delight in Barcelona's failure, which is nice.
Absolutely.
I'm going to tell you what's interesting the most about Champions League for a lot of different reasons. I mean, it's a good tournament. I like paying attention to it. The amount of teams that should be like the next phase, the knockout phase, that are struggling to get there. Like Club Brugge are leading their group.
It's awesome.
I know, it's class. It's great.
But as a Man United fan in the Europa, I'm like, oh man, I don't want fucking Barcelona to come down in the Europa League tournament. I don't want it to be AC Milan, and like I want to have a fairly easy path to like a semi-final.
So hold on, let me ask you this, Paul. Very quick, rapid question: if you could take top 4 right now, or Europa League champions, does Europa League get you into the Champions League the following year?
Yeah.
Are they both the same thing?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so maybe I honestly
think one of Man United's best chances of making the Champions League is to finish it and win the Europa.
Europa League.
That's a route that I unfortunately think will be the ace in the hole, because that top 4 race is going to be so jam packed towards the end.
Totally.
Whatever. Let's talk about the top 4 race in a different way. Let's pull up the slides here. So this is a poorly crafted table for the league standings. Tottenham are just below a shock Man City, who you can't really see that well here, and Arsenal, the surprise of the season thus far, just on fire, red hot, super hot. It's all heat.
I thought they were going to be good. I didn't think they were going to be this good, and they look deadly.
Do we want to talk about it when we talk about the Liverpool game, or do we want to talk about Arsenal now? Like,
we're not specifically going through any game, so if you want to talk about anything that happened,
I do want to talk about Arsenal. I think they are. I think this victory against Liverpool was a couple of things. One, I think it cemented them as being legit, and I think, Paul, you might have mentioned it last week, easily the clear second best right now, because any Arsenal fan who has any delusions of a title race between them and City or any other team in the Premier League, I think you're you're delusional at best. But who saw Arsenal being the clear number 2? Not me, but I think you got to give all the credit to Arteta and what he's done with this group. They're easily the second best. They were much better than Liverpool. I know Liverpool, in my opinion, are slowly declining. But even, Paul, when they played Manchester United, they were the better team. I thought United did well to get the victory on the counterattack. They're easily the next best team in the league. Yeah. And they've earned it. And the football they're playing possession-based football. They're strong defensively. They're using their wingbacks. Yeah. They're great.
I think there was
to
a
watch.
lot of talk.
Credit to them.
Rightfully, there was a lot of talk about they had the easiest schedule to start the season. So
yeah,
they got out of the gates. They did really well. But since then, they've had Man United, who they lost to, but not a moral destructive loss. They know they played well. They beat the shit out of Tottenham, and they just took it to Liverpool, who, again, Tottenham are not firing. Liverpool are definitely not firing. There's a case to be said that they are still not necessarily catching these teams as representative of being difficult teams right now, and that their schedule has still been very kind, and that it's a momentum thing, right? Like, it's once you get in the habit of winning, it's hard to give that up.
Yeah, that's just it, right? Their early start allows them to get a gnarly momentum going and just a confidence through their team that will carry them through, teams that are like not the Manchester Uniteds, but the Tottenhams, the Liverpools, possibly the Brightons of the world, where normally they might struggle with them, but that early season form is just like kind of spinning them through some teams that maybe they'd struggle with normally.
And you can talk about the form. I think the thing that's being dismissed a little too casually from everyone, because everyone's talking about the position and the results, the football is really nice. It's possession based, and I would have told you get Granit Xhaka nowhere near that started. He's playing like it seems like they've caught that thing where everyone's buying into his system, and it's almost like that Liverpool team for 2 or 3. Every single player is working 110%, putting in a shift, and they're in unison together. And you know what? As a neutral, they're a great team to watch right now.
I think that's the bigger part here, though, isn't it? For me, it's you can play great football, but if other things are missing, I think for me the number one thing that is happening at Arsenal is the camaraderie. Like, Arteta has got them. If you watch when they score a goal, all of the team, pretty much every member of that team is there together. And if you watch them when the camera cuts, they're having conversations. Ben White's like leading conversations, being like, "Let's keep up this, let's keep going." Obviously, I will say, compared to a City right now, I think we'd all agree it's not comparable. And they were lucky this week, like that I don't think it was a penalty. I think they snatched. I think that was a very fortunate decision and very, very unlucky for Liverpool. And the only other thing I'll mention is third-party ad content looks like the name in Pro Evo. It looks like, when they don't get the rights to a team, that could be another name for Man City quite easily.
They got a few calls go their way, though, with both those penalties, the handball and the penalty that was given. So but I still think they were the better team on the day, Luke. And that's like they were better against United. They've been the better team in almost every game. Sometimes you get a couple of decisions go your way.
It is to the league's detriment that the game against Manchester City has been postponed in a week's time. Because that actually was starting to look at at least something we can all squint and pretend like this could be a real title. I'm gonna draw one topic of conversation that came out of the Liverpool Arsenal game, because I think this is it's worthy of conversation. Saka scores the winning goal, and it could be offside, right? So they go to VAR. VAR cannot confirm or deny because he is literally in a blind spot for the VAR cameras, and there is no VAR offside check because no camera is on the line to check him tight enough so he gets a free pass on the review. He probably was onside. I've seen different angles that suggest maybe it was close, maybe it wasn't. But the fact that it was not a reviewable option because of camera placement was I just
a conspiracy.
I don't know. It's not a conspiracy at all. It's just one of those ones where that's too big a game. It's too much.
Drink your tar, JP.
It's almost like it is too big of a game. How would they possibly mess this up?
It's
The
wild.
I don't know
Does
what
he
you,
make a
what
mistake?
is your
No.
angle here? They're both top 4 teams. Your conspiracies are always about top 4 teams getting the advantage. They're both top 4 teams in paper.
JP
Like,
just
not
celebrates any
factually.
potential
I mean,
conspiracy.
not there.
Period.
I mean, not.
I just don't understand
factually
how
top
it's
It's
4
crazy
so
because
bad
I'm not a
still.
conspiracy guy, like at all. I'm not really that. But like
Okay.
after watching VAR play its round forever and refereeing, God, is it just the worst in the EPL?
No, I'm agreeing with JP. I'm not a conspiracy guy either. I think we'd all agree. VAR's not great right now. Bill Gates is trying to control our minds. You know, these are just normal. Earth is flat. Like these are just. We're all normal guys, and that's not what normal guys
Water
think.
is wet.
It is pretty crazy though, isn't it? I think we'd all agree, like, you know, after this amount of time, the amount of money that's gone, the amount, because this was a huge change. Think about like sports that use video replays and how well they use them. Cricket, it's like to the door. Look at tennis, like Hawkeye.
Yeah.
It's literally like the centimeters that they can see. And we have all this technology in one of the most financially, you know, liquid sports in the world, and they can't get this right.
It's new though, Luke. Though it's still a couple of years, and I've always said this about VAR.
The technology is not.
Well, it kind of is in the Premier
Kind
League,
of
though, right? Yeah, it is, and I think it's going to get
implementation, but the
better.
technology.
There's going to be these moments, and there's like moments like this where there's a blind spot. I think this particular scenario and instance, it will be a moment where they'll be like, this can't happen again. What can we do to make sure it doesn't? VAR will get better, but you're right. For the biggest, I would say, in my personal opinion, the biggest league in the world can't have misses like that, especially in a game with these two teams. Quick side note, did anyone catch anything with the whole Jordan Henderson, Gabrielle, and the whole investigation? Like, is there an update on that? Because apparently the ref spoke to both players. And okay, so what's being potentially discussed is that Jordan Henderson may have potentially racially said an inappropriate racial comment to Gabrielle.
There's a moment where there's a scuffle, and there's a moment where Gabrielle definitely acts like something was said, and then there's a large course of time where all Brazilian players on the field, regardless of who they're playing for, are having a conversation about what was said. And it doesn't look like any of the Liverpool Brazilians are all that impressed. I mean, why would they be if they didn't think that he said it? Like, there's ways to interpret that, but it's become like this real sticking point because the cameras are on them, and lip reading is a thing. They can find out what he said. But I've also, I mean, Portuguese is weird. There's things you can say in Portuguese that you may not intend them to be one thing or the other. Who knows if
I think it's out of character as well. I think it would be very out of character for Henderson.
I think so.
Like, fire, but for him, he's not. I don't see him as a. I've never. There's been no link to anything like that. So it does seem.
But Paul, is the inference that he made a comment about his Brazilian national, or is there anything racial in here?
Oh, it's racial. Probably just the official complaint was that it was something said that was racial.
But would saying, "Hey, you're Brazilian, you probably dived," would that be classified as racist?
Yeah, probably. It falls into, if it's cultural or if it's racist, they'll package that up into the same. It's inappropriate to say.
Well, I'd be in big trouble then. I'd be like,
there's
you definitely dived.
There's a lot of like, if he was like, "Go eat a Portuguese tart, you fat Portuguese guy," blah. Like, no. Terrible chirp, but like, no, that's
quite
specific. That's not right. But if it was,
I love your factual chirping. This is Paul Forrest chirping players. Hey, you!
This is the line of chirping or not chirping.
Portuguese tart, Portuguese.
Yeah, that's not crossing a line. And then there's a bunch of examples that I won't vocalize because I don't want to cross the line on a recorded show.
No. We for the fans and the people who watch the pod, we need to know. So Paul,
but I'm with Luke though. I don't definitely out of character for Henderson. I'd be surprised and very disappointed if anything does come out of this in the sense that he did say something inappropriate, because I just don't see him doing that, but I guess we'll see.
Well, he's the captain of Liverpool, so I don't know. We can't trust him.
Not a good look.
The only other thing is, what do we make of poor old Salah? Like, I know he did well in the Champions League tonight, but you know, he got taken off. Like, just doesn't look himself well compared to.
He got a big contract, and he's playing like an NBA player or an NFL player that gets the big contract, and all of a sudden isn't cutting it as much. Now, is that all on him? Is that being a little unfair? Probably. Liverpool as a team are struggling across the board. There isn't a player where I can't point a finger and be like, you're playing below.
Nunes can't stay on side. Nunes doesn't understand English or the offside rule. It's frightening. And that's not racial.
How much of that is Salah, though?
English.
like how much of that is on Salah, how much of that is on Virgil van Dijk. I honestly think
he's not having a good season either.
Yeah,
he's not having a good season. I will only dwell on Virgil van Dijk for so long, only because when he was having that one really good season and everybody was talking about him being the best ever to play in the Premier League at center back and comparing him to Vidic and Rio Ferdinand and John Terry and all these greats, and I was just like holding off and saying, well, let's see, because like it's kind of a huge feat.
I think he had a couple.
He's had a lot more than one. He's had 3 or 4. He is very good.
No. Hang on. That's not
he
dismiss it.
He was injured for one too as well, right?
Okay, that's great. But Connie, you know what I'm talking about. He had that one statistical season where he was on fire. Yeah. Everybody was acting like that's going to be the norm for every one of the seasons he has henceforth, and we can already call him the best ever to play the game. And that always annoyed me. And I just want to be like, you know what? That's everybody was right in one way, and I was right in the bigger
to
way.
your point, Paul, a lot of people like a lot of football people are actually like singling him out. Like I know there's a lot of talk about Salah lately, but there's a lot of talk about Van Dijk is having a really poor season. Like, and I think it was either on Talk Sport or Sky Sports. Somebody pointed out there's like at least 4 or 5 other central defenders that are having much better seasons and are just playing. He's having he is one of the standouts who's being poor. But to go back to your question about Salah and maybe for the whole team, when I watched him this past weekend, is it just me? Like I might just be going crazy. Has he lost a step or two of pace or speed? Because when I remember him being at his best, he would just tear past wingbacks, central defenders. He doesn't look like him, or the whole team just looks slower and not as sharp. But as he burnt out a little bit, just like because he doesn't look like he has what he used to have, or is this just a bit of bad form from him?
I've heard a lot of like theories on this, and the one that I heard it and then I started paying attention to it, and I think there's some credence to it, is that he's holding the touchline too much. He's playing too wide, which means he's not getting that narrow advantage that he usually gives himself. He's starting from such a wide position that every move in the world isn't going to get you past consistently Premier League defender from that distance, and they're giving him the space to come at him. Whereas before he was picking up the ball much closer infield to the defender, and that's where he's a nightmare, and that's where he could like cut in and use his left foot or like beat a man. So I think it's not necessarily a physical thing. I think it's his positioning right now. And I don't know if his positioning is because they've tweaked the system because they have to, because they did, or if it's, or I don't know, or if it's just like he's been told something, or if he's just hugging it for whatever reason. But I don't see it being a pace thing. It's not like he's hit the Wayne Rooney wall where all of a sudden he's not as fast. I just don't see him using the speed in the same places as before. This is not a team. The Sadio Mane effect was that fast break could either start on the right or the left, and every team knew it. They don't have that anymore. So I think Sadio Mane and the partnership he had with him is like the great intangible. Like, how does that affect the entire Liverpool squad and their attack? Because they're much more slower in their build-up now, I think.
Well, the tactical talk is, why aren't they playing that high line that they played for years that made them so successful? And they did it like Arsenal were playing so high. Arsenal were basically playing Liverpool's high line that has made them successful for years. And now Liverpool are sitting back. And there's a lot of like people talking about how Klopp is also to kind of blame for this wobble. The tactics don't seem to be right. That formation, that team he put out on Sunday, I don't know I don't know what's going on with the team, but I'm a big Klopp guy. Like, I obviously don't like Liverpool. Tons of respect for him. I don't really know what he's been doing with that team lately. I kind of think it's going like this, guys, and I could be going early on this, but it kind of feels that way. Like they've done good.
It's the 7-year dip. It's the 7-year dip. Every year,
we're there.
Club he's been at 7 years, he's left. 7 years, 7 years. If he doesn't improve, I think this is the end of Klopp and Liverpool. And it might seem extreme, but I just think it will be in everyone's interest. I think he's done well. I always said that when they lost Mane, that they didn't. I don't think Liverpool fans were really honest with themselves with how big of a loss that was. I would have honestly, it's funny. I went to watch them at a pub here in Toronto with a load of Liverpool fans, And a mate of mine has said for years he's never really got on board the Salah train. He knows he's good. He doesn't think he was like, when we lost Mane, I'm devastated. He said I would much have preferred to have lost Salah than Mane.
I think that's an asinine comment. Just throwing that out there. I think that's wild.
I thought it was as well, but like the guy's he's a good footballer himself. Like he's a great midfielder. Like he knows the game. So I don't know. He watches week in, week out. Maybe there's something he sees, but I think Mane gives so much in regards to athleticism, like just up and down. Whereas Salah, there is something, and when Salah's not performing in that key part that he performs, it's like there's other things that Mane would do that would make up for it, and losing that, I just don't. And now Diaz, have you seen Diaz is out now for the rest of
bad injury
until at least the World Cup, so they're having a rough time.
I also want to say, like, we're bashing on Liverpool a little bit and certain players, but I also want to say after 2 or 3 seasons, some teams are probably going to have some plans in place on how to negate Salah and how to slow the game down in a way that Liverpool don't want. And it's usually these things happen where a team uses a tactic for 2 or 3 seasons, and then they have to make an adjustment. And they could have adjusted it too much. They could have changed something that just isn't getting the spark that it once had. And the team was built one way, and now they're trying to change it up a little bit, and it's just not clicking. Like, this could just be like an organic failure that was created because you have to change in the EPL or you're going to get caught.
Unless you're Man City. You just play the same pep ball every week and just dominate.
Exactly.
So I want to draw attention to Potter and his Chelsea team, who like a game in hand, 1 point behind Spurs in third, scored 3 goals against Wolves on the weekend.
And got Villa this
weekend. Potentially whatever was preventing them from scoring at Chelsea, he may have worked it out. They're scoring goals in Champions League. They're scoring goals in Premier League. They seem to be attacking with more directness and speed, which was, I think, something that was heavily criticized from Tuchel. I don't know. I think he might be a worry. I think I thought maybe there's going to be a little bit of an embedding time. I thought there was maybe a little bit of Chelsea, like, good luck getting the wheels back on that boat or that ship. But he seems to be doing what he needs to be doing. And he doesn't, as a club, they don't seem like they've lost a lot of ground on anybody while they had that. They literally had to fire a manager, and they're only 1 point out from third. That's a great position. They could be very dangerous, though.
I think outside of Arsenal and Man City, I don't know that. I mean, like the best of the rest, I don't know if they've been great. I think Chelsea. I mean, we've talked about Chelsea a lot on here. Chelsea do have a good team from the back to the midfield. I think the question was always getting goals. Like when Havertz scores for them, they seem to do well.
False 9.
Yeah, Pulisic scored a wonder goal, and then that Broha guy. But again, it was against Wolves. I agree to a certain extent with what you're saying, Paul. But I need to see a little bit more of it to say, hey, these guys look like they're going to nail down a top. I still worry about. I worry about the same thing I think I've worried about for a season. Who is their best attacking?
Climate change.
Yeah. Like, I think Potter really likes Mason Mount up there. I still am going. I do like Aubameyang. I think if they can make Aubameyang work in that 9 and figure out who's going to be on the left or the right, I think it could
dangerous.
be good. I just don't know attacking yet. I'm just not sure. I need to see more. That's kind of where I'm at, but I do like him as a manager. I think he's galvanized the group. He seems to have injected some sort of positivity where I think when Tuchel was there, it was like, it's the Tuchel show, get on board, this is what we do, it's about me. He seems to be an arm around the shoulder in a good way manager. That's the vibe I'm getting so far.
Yeah. He is like an icebreaker. Like he'll get the guys going and doing things that are uncomfortable off the field to break the ice and build like he's kind of known for like Ted Lasso kind of style togetherness emphasis.
I like that.
And doing exercises to get him there. So something to watch is definitely Chelsea. I'm going to draw us into the conversation about a little team called Newcastle, who sixth in the league right now. And I'm going to highlight a player. You say blood money. I'm going to highlight Bruno Guglielminis. That's terrible. Bruno. I'm just going to call him Bruno. The other Bruno. Like
the better Bruno.
This guy if they can make a sustained run this season and next season and get themselves to be credible and start to draw and attract with the money they have, but also the credibility you get from being a top 6 team or even top 8 team in the Premier League over the course of a couple of seasons, this guy and the purchase of this guy, because he was like 30 million, something like that.
No, he wasn't. He was 50.
He was a lot.
He was 50.
It was that much?
No,
well,
we'll
confirm
every other team was in form.
Sorry, without talking about it like this, somebody look it up. We'll circle back. I think he's like 30. But the get was he had his choice of a lot of clubs, and he chose Newcastle. And what's he done since he got there this season? 6 games. He played really well last season. Scored 2 goals on the weekend. His who scored rating is 7.58, which is the 6th highest in the Premier League. He averages 3.5 tackles a game, which is 6th in the Premier League. He's fouled 2.2 times, which is 5th. He's got 2 goals in the season. He's got 1 assist, and he makes 1.8 key passes as a defensive midfield player for Newcastle a game. He is taking to the Premier League like he always was meant to be a Premier League player. And he's like a defensive midfield player, so he's an easy miss sometimes. Like, you don't necessarily catch these guys in significance to what they bring to this team. But since he started playing regularly for Eddie Howe in the Newcastle squad, everybody seems to be lifted. He's like that bedrock, that platform that lets the attacking players go up the field. The defense is much improved. He was assigned last year, but like at this point, I'm like, other than Haaland and a few other very flashy, obvious players, he is so under the radar as one of the best signings in last season and a half that I wanted to just dwell on this because where they go as a club, I think it started with this guy.
I think he could be like remember when City really got going, it wasn't even necessarily Aguero, it was Yaya Toure. I think he could be their Yaya Toure, like that focal point signing that you almost build the team around because he's that good. He is that good. Like his stat,
he's not Yaya Toure.
Yeah,
well, dude, have you watched him play? Like, what did they do with Yaya? They kept buying players and surrounding Yaya. Yaya won Player of the Season and was the best player in the league for about 2 years.
25 goals too,
dude.
And had one of the best chances.
Newcastle is only going to attract better and better. Like there's going to be I could be next summer where United want to go and sign a guy, and he goes to Newcastle because that's how they got Bruno Guimaraes, and I can't pronounce his name. They threw a boatload of money at him. There was a bunch. It was 50 million. No salary, JP. Salary.
Euros.
He was scheduled to go to like 2 or 3 other, what you would call at the time, better teams. They bought him, and I mean they bought him where they gave him a lot of money. He's been easily their best signing. He's a treat to watch. He keeps the ball better than most. Like I think the stat is he's the 3rd best in Europe for keeping the ball in his position and not losing possession. That's massive in the Premier League. He's so influential. He's a treat to watch. I think as of right now, he's their signature piece signing in the start of them building this new regime that they're going to get there. It might take a little while, but he's been the guy. He's fantastic.
Besides that, Newcastle's won like the 5th most points since Eddie Howe was appointed, which is a crazy number that Eddie Howe must have hit the ground. He had like 1 or 2 weeks, and then they started winning games, and they've continued on that trajectory. If they get 1 or 2 huge signings, not maybe this January, but in the summer, and Eddie Howe stays and everything keeps going, right on ship, they're going to be a powerhouse to deal with.
You know what I love about that, JP? You know what I love about that story? Quickly, guys. Remember when he got appointed, how disrespectful the media was about how quickly he'll be replaced and fired, regardless of how he performs or just because he's too small of a name? He's given the biggest fuck you to everyone, and I love it. Good for Eddie.
It was like if you have like a really good-looking friend who brings a kind of surprise girlfriend, and you're like, really? Her?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
What?
It's just if you look at some of the signings,
Eddie Howe,
made,
really?
Though,
all that money you want to buy Eddie Howe? Yeah.
It's genuinely incredible, and I think that was the big thing for me with Eddie Howe was that the players that he signed, they came in, they were like Mbappe and this, and they were all like, going crazy about all this huge money that they had. But they still realized, hey, we're still Newcastle. We almost got relegated. He bought really, really smart players.
Yeah.
He got Dan Burns at the back. He picked up Matty Target from us as a left back option. He went with a big Trippier is fantastic. This guy, the guy that they built a giant up front, I forget his name. And like that, they bought really, really well. And I think it's almost like a money ball. Like they've looked at what they needed, identified key specific things that they were missing. Is it height? Is it a ball player? Is it this? And they've gone after that. And they haven't brought in Ronaldo or Mbappe or Dybala, but they didn't need to. They've brought in players that really fill the gap. They've seen a circular hole and filled it with a circular hole, or a square peg and stuck a square peg in there. And it's really good. It's genuinely good. It's a shame that it is still obviously.
If you talk to any Newcastle fan about what he also has done that has shocked everybody, is turning Joe Linton into a player.
Yeah.
That is
goodness.
Massive. Massive.
I didn't see that one coming, to be honest with you. Like Joe Linton,
mate.
He's a complete shit show. But this is the question I kind of have. I'm looking at their roster here, and they have good players. But like Chris Wood, like you look at all these guys, and we talk about Nottingham Forest and all the players they signed. I think it's more of a testament to how than even like the players. Like he's done so much better than I thought he would. Than I think everyone. And it's not like he's got. Look at insane Almiron roster, but he's bought in decent enough play. Almiron looks like a friggin' superstar.
He's so bad. He's so bad, and he's doing so well.
I know he's always been a raw talent. How's harnessed it? So I don't know. Like they're doing exceptionally well. They're surprising me, and good for them. They also kind of deserve this after all that Mike Ashley bullshit they put up with years as well.
I liking the stories that come out of Newcastle where it's a party again and the fans are happy to be watching football. It must have been so hard to even watch and get excited to support that team for those years that you kind of had no optimism and no hope. Now, will I ever forget why the optimism and hope is coming from, and that it's all Saudi Arabian back?
No, the whole league is going to go to Man City and Newcastle for 37 years. Yeah, great, awesome.
Oh, come on,
it's terrible.
We're okay. So speaking of Mbappe, who didn't go to Newcastle, this guy is maybe once again not so happy with PSG in his dual role of sporting director and striker and left wing and poster boy for everything French football. He is maybe going, maybe not. It's probably bullshit. It's probably a rumor. But I'm going to pose the question because I don't think it's worth talking about. Do we believe it? Is it happening? Whatever. I'm going to ask, would you take him on? Let's say price is a marginal thing. It's going to cost a fortune, but let's say hypothetically Aston Villa could support him, Man United could support him. Would you want this guy come January if he was an option?
Go ahead, JP.
I'm going to go no, because Steven Gerrard will still play Philip Coutinho over him. So what's the point, right? Steven Gerrard
go with the hypothetical. If you could have him, JP,
we're Aston Villa. If we could have Mbappe, I would take Mbappe's single toe and put that on the field, right? I put Mbappe on the field when he's 50. At this point, like Villa cannot be pickier choosers. Like it's crazy.
Okay, I'm going to change the game for you. What if you switch your team for 2 minutes here? You're now Real Madrid. You're a Real Madrid fan. Would you for 200 million euros?
He is one of the top 3 best strikers in the world, and now you're going to put them together. Like you are going to be unstoppable.
Perfect. This is where I'm going to come in. This is why I would want him nowhere near my club, because you just gave him the most outrageous salary in the history of football. You've also said he's technically director of football, so he gets to make choices. He plays with Neymar and Messi week in, week out, and he's been moaning for months. He's a little brat is what he is. He thinks he's bigger than his britches. Like, shut up. You play in the biggest farmers league in the world. Shut up, go win another title. Play with arguably the greatest player that's ever played the game, and Neymar. What are you complaining about? Like, let's ask the question, why does this guy even want out? What's your problem? You make more money than ever. Like, what's the issue? So here's the thing. You're Real Madrid. I'm Man United. You sign him. Who's to say he's not going to do the same thing in another month or two? He thinks he's bigger than the world. I don't understand it. I wouldn't want him anywhere near my club. And I'll add in Neymar with that as well. I hate Neymar. Don't want him anywhere. They both think they're bigger than their clubs. And I would say they're borderline cancers to any major football team. That's where I stand on that.
Luke, thoughts?
You're on mute, pal. Figure it out.
There we go. See, is that better? There we go.
You're good. You're good.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough one. I tried to sign Mbappe for Villa when I met him in 2019. I made a joke when I met him at PSG, and I was like, "Oh, there's a big club going to come in for you," and he laughed. I was like, "Fuck yourself." So after that, he's dead to me. But I think everything that you just said is. But I think this is a prime example of PSG have made this. It's not him. Yeah, it's not an issue of him. I don't blame him. Yeah, his attitude's crappy, but when you're that good and you're given that much opportunity, PSG have made this issue. They gave him so much. They were so desperate to keep him. If he started demanding that and whatever he was demanding back in the summer, I'd have said, okay, enjoy Real Madrid. We'll see you. And I would have made my money from him or whatever you could and just got him out the door. But when you start giving him a director of football role and this and that, it doesn't look good. And yeah, I think I don't know. And they're talking about this is where does he go? And this is a big conversation. It's like, no, there's very few teams that can offer him anything because nobody can afford it. Like, maybe Man United.
Real Madrid is the only destination. No, Real Madrid's the only destination.
Yeah.
He was this close to going. No,
Chelsea could pay.
We wouldn't buy him. No, Real Madrid is where he wanted to go. It's his boyhood club he wants to play for. They thought he was going there on the free until PSG literally backed up about 9 Brinks trucks because no one's going to pay him that money, not even Real Madrid. That's the only club he's going to on the planet if he goes anywhere. And Paul started it off at the very beginning. We don't even know if this is true, but it has been reported in the last couple of months that he's been moaning on the training pitch with Neymar, with Messi.
He's full now with him, apparently.
It's like, buddy, you're 22 years old. You're playing with the greatest, but shut your goddamn mouth, play your position, and collect your paycheck. No one needs. Who do you think you are? That's my whole thing with Mbappe. Who are you, dude?
He's someone who won the World Cup and they haven't. That's what he's probably saying.
Surrounded by an incredible team called France who got him there. N'Golo Kanté,
and Giroud.
Thank him. You got it.
And Giroud. It's ridiculous.
Where do you stand on this, Paul? I'm kind of curious.
The rumors I've heard is that if you go someplace like a Man United, it would be on the very transparent, all parties understand that this is a stepping stone to get to Real Madrid eventually. PSG do not want to sell to Real Madrid. That's become a line in the sand for them. So on a good salary, maybe a reduced salary because he's forcing his way out on some sort of huge commercial deal, Man United get him for a season or like 2 seasons while we're kind of rebuilding and looking to fill the striker position anyways. And then we would have to be open to selling him eventually to Real Madrid, which in a stage like ours where we are kind of like building something and to have 15, 20 goals kind of accounted for that we wouldn't necessarily, I don't know where in the market you would get that right now. There isn't like that next level top young striker available. There are reasons why I think it would be an interesting move if it was very well planned and it was considered and used as a stopgap. Like Anthony on the right, Rashford on the left, and this guy down the middle, you're all speed. He's a really, really good player. But does he go into a club like a Premier League club and not be a bitch?
No.
Like, does he like do well when there are defenders who are going to like
kick the shit out of him?
Give you the kicks and stuff. Like, there's a lot of guys who are really talented who can come into the Premier League and do their thing. I would love to see him and Haaland like go at it, but I just think he has always been like this kind of fucking diva. So even if it was an understandable gamble for 2 years, I don't know if I love having a guy who's only going to be there for 2 years who knows that and he's a diva coming into the clubhouse when Man United seemed to have already just like passed that stage of getting those kind of guys out. Paul Pogba, like I would say no, but I wouldn't. I would be open to some sort of logic if it did happen. Like I think I kind of know what the rationale would be.
You want to be convinced of a yes.
What's that phrase? Like, is it wolf in the chicken coop or whatever? Like, I feel that's kind of what he would be.
Wolf in
Fox in the hen house. Fox in the hen house.
Fox in the hen house. There we go. I know I was mixing up the two different versions of animal.
Well, wolves and foxes, but very similar.
Exactly. So yeah, no, I think we're all in agreement that our clubs are too good for Kylian Mbappe. So.
Correct.
Yeah, you're damn right. This is just a real quick-ish one. Nottingham Forest, who went out and bought 23 players this summer, and who have, I mean, in retrospect, struggled to perform. Not all.
That's because they can't
keep
track of them. They're counting them at training. Like, is that everyone? I'm sure we bought.
A lot of them are still in HR getting their HR form.
Yeah, they're getting their packs. Welcome to Nottingham.
Yeah. I mean, tons of money spent. Like they were like one of the top Premier League spenders this summer, and not a lot of guys seem to be the manager's choices. There are some like Morgan Gibbs-White, I think, from Wolves for 30 or 40
He's always
million.
been a good player. He hasn't quite.
And he worked with the manager, so there was a connection. There's a few other guys where there was a connection to the manager, and there's and that's maybe 4-5 tops, and then there's 16,
19, 19
others,
23 signings, isn't it?
That were maybe brought on by the head of this fine gentleman here, the head of recruitment. All this pressure on performing, it's not happening. The manager's in the crosshair. He's going to get fired. And for once, the actual club identified the guy who was really responsible for the situation they're in and fired him. And I think it's him, head of recruitment. I think the head of scouting was also let go.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean
team's gone.
that the firing is over. I don't know if that's at all what's happening. I think that the owner of Nottingham Forest is apparently a pretty fire-heavy guy, likes to bust the cap.
Fire people.
Very
but hang on.
It's just nice to see this happening in this order, though.
Yeah, but also I think it's worth highlighting that the dates here. So this is today that the recruitment team have been sacked, head of recruitment, head of scouting, and I think one other. And 3 or 4 days ago, manager was given a contract extension to 2025. So you said, I don't think it's fair. I think giving a manager who's under pressure, that we would think is under pressure, a contract extension is saying, hey, we are highlighting that we don't think it's you. We think it's not been done. I don't see. Do you give a contract extension to a manager you're about to sack?
Yeah, like he did get him up. He saved them at the bottom of the championship. He gets them into the Premier League. Do you give a guy that's 9 games in the Premier League that you could definitely be firing this year a brand new contract, and that's how you show that you're defending him? Or do you fire this guy and then just come out and say, we are sticking with the manager, let him continue on, and we will see where we are in the World Cup?
But I think the two.
What do you mean, though? You wouldn't give him a contract. Like, if you have to pay him out, the fact that you're giving him a contract, I think, is clearly support. The way I see this, and I agree with Paul, it's very refreshing to see the recruitment. Something must have been going on behind the scenes where recruitment and the management and no one was speaking to one another. No one was on the same page. There's clearly been some internal talks to say, okay, we need to get aligned because we haven't been before. This guy's the problem. Maybe let's have the manager work a little bit more closely with recruitment so we can get this back on track. But I don't think you give out a new contract if you have any plans. This guy, these guys have 5 points and are minus 15 in goal differential. The next is minus 9. They're not doing well.
But they still picked up a point against Villa.
Of course, but it's got to be some sort of show of confidence to say, we think he can potentially turn this around. It's still early on in the season. I think this is really nice and refreshing to see that somebody other than the manager gets the sack and all the blame is not automatically put on the manager, which it usually is.
No, I think it's very, very good, and I think there is definitely something going on. I don't know if you've actually watched Steve Clark again. I couldn't. One of the most fascinating things about that horrendous game this weekend this week I should say, against Villa and Nottingham Forest was Clark looks like a man who's constantly off his head on weed. He's literally like this.
His eyes,
he does.
He looks. I don't know.
He looks like he's on a trip all the time.
Yeah,
all the
time. I don't know
time.
whether that's just now. Is he just exhausted by what's been happening behind the scenes, or did he always look like that?
He looks like he's on mushrooms 24 hours a day.
That, yeah.
Every interview, if you just pan to him on the sidelines, I'm like, you were on mushrooms and they look good. You look like you're having a good time.
You are a functioning drug addict.
Probably a lovely guy.
This is interesting.
Do you think there's a good chance that this guy that just got fired, who's on the screen right now, is the drug dealer? Because
I think so.
Yeah.
I think he knows.
Imagine if this guy was like, how this guy gets a job in professional football. That's what I want to know. You can't see it, but his forearm is covered in like expression tattoos. And I love it.
Quick game. What did he do previous? I'm gonna say that he bedazzled jeans. That's what I think. He's
arms dealer.
He ran a super successful seafood infringement, like huge franchise setup.
Emporium.
Yeah.
Arms dealer in the Sudan.
I'm gonna go with doorman.
Yeah,
that fits.
Slash.
Even the face he's making right there is me going, no, I'm cool. I can come in this club.
Back of the line.
That's a legit idea. That's a real idea.
Like, what?
No, he doesn't.
I got these bedazzled jeans down the street from a guy who looks like you, but I can come in this club, right?
I think he looks like. I think he's concierge. I think that's the face when you've come down for the 4th time in 3 days, asking if your package has arrived, and he's just this guy again.
Yeah, this guy.
I enjoyed this segment. We should do this more.
It's a good one.
Making fun of people? Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah,
I'll get a picture of Brian.
He's gonna kill us. One of us is
gonna be here for an hour and a half.
Well, let's end the show by just getting into the games that are upcoming. Let's talk about it because some of it's going to be painful, and some of it's not. This game week is going to start on Friday with a pretty resilient Brentford hosting a Brighton, who I think have been playing pretty well considering they just lost Potter. I have been impressed with them. I think that'll be a good, entertaining game. And then we're going to get into a Saturday where the first game I think is a real teller because Brendan Rodgers and the Leicester folks are so bad right now. And I think Crystal Palace are starting to hit a run of games where you can really see how next 3 or 4 games they can hit some form and get up the table. I don't know exactly what's going on with Leicester. I just know that I'm not impressed whenever I see them. Certain players seem to shine, but they're so not connected to each other. Maddison seems like he's a bit of when he does well, an individual version of like a moment of magic. That seems to be how the things turn around, but there's just no consistency to the way they've been playing.
I can see like
is under attack so much. Like they're the new defender they had last game got man of the match because they lost 2-1, and it was crazy. It was crazy bombarded numbers. Like the amount of stuff he had to do in a 2-1 loss, it just suggested that they were being overwhelmed everywhere.
What do you think Crystal Palace's attackers are going to do? The one thing about Crystal Palace, their attack has pace to burn, and they also have skill, like Eze, like Zaha. I forget is it Edouard? Like I think this one could be like a 3 or 4-1. I think for everything that Paul just said, they're going to absolutely lambaste that defense, and I don't think they're going to know how to cope with it. I don't think this is going to be good for Leicester. Crystal Palace are fun to watch from an offensive standpoint. They really are.
If Crystal Palace get the first goal early, Leicester fans will turn, and if the fans start to turn, the players are going to play scared. They're going to play with their backs against the wall, and when that starts happening, teams just they ship goals for fun.
Well, I don't understand. I know obviously losing Schmeichel, they sold Fofana for insane amount of money, and they have no money. It's crazy. But if you just think about the players that they still have, Yuri Tillemans, which is a Belgian international, you've got Samare, who actually looks quite good. Dewsbury Hall is an impressive young player.
Harvey
Barnes has been great the last couple of years. James Maddison and Daka. When he came into the league, and came into the team, he flew. He scored 3 in his first Europa game. He scored 2, and he looks like a good player. So I don't get
but
why they're struggling as much as they are.
Four or five of those stars are out of contract this summer. Why are they going to go balls to the wall and potentially get injured when they could just play, kind of live off their past experiences and get a fat contract someplace new in the summer and just leave?
No, but I don't think a player thinks like that. I don't think a Premier League player
as well. No. Like if you're right on paper, like Ndidi was one of the best.
That's what I mean.
Most interceptions in the league last year.
Amati,
Vardy,
Perez, like
something's wrong there.
Yeah. I think behind the scene, we're talking about behind the scenes problems. There's been a lot of talk about financial issues at the club. Obviously, the Thai owners. Apparently, there was a big falling out in Thailand with the Royals, and they're quite connected. I think there's all kinds of stuff. It's not a Russian embargo, but it's not far off. And I think there could be a lot of issues. If you sell a player for 70 million and you can't afford more than 15, 16 million to buy a backup, there is something sizably wrong. Sizably. And
can I ask a quick question? Like, do you guys rate Rodgers as a manager? Because if you're him, are you waiting to almost get the sack? Because I would say resign, but you want the payday, right? But like, do you think he wants to be there with what's going? Well, yeah. Like, would you want to be there if you were him?
Is he going to win the league? No. But I think JP take him.
They're going to invest again. I think he stays.
You think so?
I love the debate if Rodgers is a good coach, because I used to have this debate all the time when he was at Leicester. I think Rodgers is a decent coach to a certain point. He is a great failure. He is a great failure because remember, there was like 2 or 3 years where he was in the top 4 for almost the whole season and then constantly missed it in the last 3 weeks of the season. He is a great failure because he is so good at getting teams to punch above their weight, but he can't see the end. He can't see a team into the promised land, and he can't keep them going the whole season. Failure. And then he falls apart, and then he builds.
But hang on, JP, hang on. Just to add to that point, if he was would you say that about someone who'd won the Premier League and bar one slip in one game, he won the Premier League? You know, this is the Gerrard slip. That's it, and that's it. And
no, because you have to separate playing career from coaching career. Steven Gerrard has not done enough to have a good
No.
We're talking about Slippy G. Steven
What
Gerrard
did you
slipping.
think the question was?
I thought he was like, as a coach, is he great?
No. When Brendan Rodgers was Liverpool manager when Steven Gerrard slipped in that famous slip and lost them the league. So otherwise, if he doesn't slip, they win that game and Liverpool win the league. And he's a Premier League manager.
You could win in other places of the season.
It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, one crazy slip did lose them the league. And yes, there was a game previous that they had a bad result. And you are right. Like, I think you're right. On the whole, I absolutely agree. But I had this conversation with someone very recently, and I always felt for Rodgers. I always thought I think he's a very, very good manager. I don't think he's an elite manager. I don't think he's a first or a second like consistent. No, is he a champions winning manager? I think not. Is he? He'll get you into a top 6, at least top 8 race in every club, 100%. If Villa happened to get rid of and Rodgers was available and give him a couple of weeks to clear his head, I would have Rodgers. I think he's a very strong.
He's good. He's not
consistent.
Great.
Okay, let's just move it on and what I'm going to finish with saying JP's completely right. He does crumble late in seasons, and I think we're all completely right that last place for the squad that he has is not a good manager.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Take away his resume. Look at him now. The squad he has, he's in last place 9 games into the season.
100%.
Not a good manager right now.
100%.
That's it. Fulham and Bournemouth meet up not in the championship, but in the Premier League. Both promoted. Both sit 8th and 9th above each other. I don't think this is boring. I think this is going to be a great game. I think this is the kind of matchups to decide who gets relegated. And the fact that both these teams have been playing very well. 8th and 9th as promoted teams.
Fantastic.
That's insane. That's fantastic. And there's both of them are doing that. Nottingham
Forest above Liverpool,
shocking everybody. Yeah. I think Mitrovic is going to be back for this one. I think Bournemouth have been playing very well organized. They seem to win Rocky Balboa style. It seems to be a real fucking grind game every single time. I think this game is going to be an enjoyable watch. And it's got heavy stakes, which I like. Wolves are going to be, I think they have to be turning something around sooner or later. And I think Nottingham Forest is probably a good team to be
They
facing.
should be able to beat them.
But they're not looking good. I'll be honest. Like, Wolves, terrible. Diego Costa maybe is like looking to eat somebody. From
Neves should have a hat trick from distance because Nottingham Forest give up the most goals from outside the box in the whole Premier League. And Wolves have one or two guys who can hit a ball from distance.
Yeah, but that math doesn't work out when you say Wolves can't score for shit. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
So that's a
there's a bigger statistic above JP.
Yeah.
You know what's weird though? They
I'm
play
like, JP,
some
I hear
nice
what you're saying, but
football.
if you considered, they can't score for shit.
They
That
play
is
good
true.
football
It
from
enters the
midfield, like João Matinho, and then you get it out to the wing to Pedro Neto. Like they do a lot of nice little things, and then it's just like it just stops, and they can't score, they can't do anything, they can't defend. It's weird though, because I really like watching their midfield play. They do some nice stuff, but they can't fucking score to save their life, and it's been the same old story. You can't be 1-0 FC all the time. Like they just do not score at all. So it's I don't know.
It's
tough
shocking
to
to
watch.
watch.
You know what's wild about them? Like if they had like a spirit animal, but instead of an animal, it was a player that like summarizes exactly what they are as a team. It's Traore. It's the Wolf player.
Man, I watched him on the weekend, and I've finally made up my mind. He has all of the tools physically. He can't play football. He's actually a terrible, terrible footballer, and honestly, he shouldn't even play for them. He some of the decision making is so horrific. It's actually tough to watch.
Do you know who had exactly the same setup in a different position? Kenway Jones. Kenway Jones should have been one of the greatest. He was tall. He was great in the air, athletic, quick, and for whatever reason, he was a big money signing, and he could not score to save his life.
No, this guy can't even. Never mind scoring, Luke. Everything he does is ridiculous.
Oh, I know.
His decision making is wild, man.
It's mad. It's mad that he's somehow managed. His agent has done wonders because
physical specimen.
Where the hell are we going, guys?
Guys, it was just a clever analogy to describe Wolves. We're moving on.
Spurs
hosting Everton. Spurs hosting Everton.
Can I tell you a really good fact? And I love it. And Brian's not here, so we'll have to send it to him separately. The most Spursy Spurs fact I've ever heard: the first season that Gareth Bale went trophyless was the loan season he went back to Tottenham. Is that not the most Spursy fact you've ever heard? Prior to that,
he would have went trophyless at Spurs before.
When he was at Spurs.
Oh yeah.
Spurs, after he left Spurs, he went trophy every single year, and the next time he went trophyless was when he went back to Spurs on loan.
That's brilliant.
That's great. Anyways, this game.
So good if he wins it.
I can't get a game in the MLS.
Yeah. Spurs did quite well at Champions League today. I don't think they had any major injuries. Everton, who I thought looked not terrible against Man United, but there was a run of form. They were kind of stitching together. A couple of wins, a lot of draws.
They didn't look good against United, though, did they?
Playing a little bit better.
They looked okay, but
you should have been 4 or 5, I think.
Yeah, maybe. It is still Everton. I gotta say this feels like Spurs should be taking it to Everton, but I want to give Everton a little bit of credit because it did feel like they were maybe starting to go someplace, but I don't know how it's going to work
3-1 Spurs.
This could be a Harry Kane game type thing.
3-1
Speaking of a Harry Kane style game, 3-1 Aston Villa hosting Chelsea and I mean, if I can give you any good news is that Reece James may not be available for this one. He was
that doesn't help us.
He walked off injured.
That doesn't help us.
Yeah, I don't know. This is
It took a 37-year-old wonder strike to give us a 1-1 with a team as bad as Nottingham Forest right now. So if you think that Reece James limping off, put Reece James in a goddamn wheelchair, he'll do a job at Villa Park. He will. It is a criminal state of compares.
I think
will
Villa
say-
terrible.
Paul, take that smirk
will
off
s-
your goddamn face.
I will say though,
Why?
there is a flip side to JP's negativity, which many Villa would agree is true.
There's no flip
And I've been
side.
having conversation. If you look at different statistics, we are 4 games unbeaten. We have we're starting to keep we're a lot better defensively at the back. It looks like that way. I think there are positives. It's hard to read the positives because the negatives are so glaringly obvious. But it's like I think this conversation of Aston Villa right now is kind of madness. Steven Gerrard is not going anywhere until after the World Cup. They have put too much money into Villa. They are running it like a business. They're
Okay, before
investing
you
in the
go too
stadium.
far off target, do you see yourself getting anything out of this game, Luke?
Fuck no. What a ridiculous question.
All right, Paul, keep us moving.
A quick reminder that you guys drew Manchester City this season, not that long ago.
Yeah.
That's
That's
fine.
what I mean. That's what I mean.
I don't think we have it in us.
No,
to-
I don't know.
The
Who
fans
knows?
are
It depends if we-
starting to turn, and if we keep providing performances like we have been,
But Archie got
they're
on,
slow. They're
and he
not
looked
great.
good.
Gentlemen, you don't know what Chelsea are going to get week to week. You don't know what's going to happen
Exactly.
this weekend. Come on.
Is Havertz going to
Start
turn
talking
up?
sense
Exactly.
here. The
Leeds.
Chelsea can put in a floater. You might be okay.
Leeds.
So can I.
host the
See what I can
red
do in the
hot
evenings.
Arsenal in a game that I think Leeds are gonna just get smashed in.
Yeah.
I hope
No,
so.
I'm going to tell you
3-0.
something. Keep your eyes on this game this weekend.
No.
This is going to be the game of the weekend.
No.
Oh.
Yes, it
You
is.
know what I love?
Yes,
Connie
it is.
Connie's a
No.
bookmaker's dream. Connie
I'm
comes
telling
in,
you.
he goes,
No kidding.
he goes to see his bookie. Connie's the kind of guy who's got a foreign bookie. He doesn't use the apps. He is some illegal guy who's making bookies. And he's like, you know what? I got a feeling.
This
and then on an
matchup-
8-match losing streak, he's like, I got a feeling.
No,
for 200.
Leeds, the way Leeds play and their work rate, even regardless of the score, this game is going to be brilliant to watch. Trust me, this is a good football team Jesse March has
Oh my
going here,
God.
and everyone
are a-
goes to war for him. I like this
He's
team.
Bielsa 2.0, dude.
No, he
It's not
isn't,
great.
man. No,
You
he's
are
not.
Larry
You-
David.
Watch
Larry
this
David
space,
putting up
man.
bets right now.
Watch this space.
That's,
1H. I'm
next.
calling it.
Let's also be very clear. I want to be very clear about this. Bielsa 2.0 is no fucking insult. Bielsa is one of the best managers that ever fucking managed
all
in the
time.
sport.
Yeah.
So
get
to
it.
use it as a derogatory insult, you
Hold
might
on.
want to get less American real fast.
Crazy.
Manchester United are going to, I
This
think,
is the
slip
game of the
against
weekend.
Newcastle.
They are
and
going to.
And I'm going to say,
That's a
I think me and Dave are
bold
probably
prediction.
thinking the same thing here. Newcastle are too big. They're good on the ball. They've got a lot of strengths, but Newcastle specifically with their size in that box, Sven Botman eats every ball that comes in the box. He's been really impressive in that regard. And we haven't had a big Stoke style game yet where our size has cost us. I think this is the game that we're going to see three at the back for
Do you see
Newcastle.
Maguire back?
And Trippier whipping in balls. He's been injured. I don't think he can come back. Is he still
No,
injured?
he's not. He's still injured.
Is he still injured? Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the
So,
thing. This is more about
this is gonna be an
Newcastle.
Yeah. It is.
Varane.
United were very lucky to get 3 points against Everton, and I'll tell you what, Everton weren't good. United were bad. They barely.
No. Oh
beat-
my God, that's bullshit. Have we have to talk about that?
Hold on a
one of
second.
That was
Sorry.
one of the best games that we've had this season.
Do you think so? I thought we
Yeah,
played down
totally.
to their level. We didn't finish, and we gave them a million chances near the end to equalize.
But
We let the last 15 minutes, they should have scored 3 times to equalize. They weren't good. They're not sharp on the ball. You know who is sharp on the ball? Newcastle. We're going to get exposed this weekend. The amount of the skill and ability on the United team is there. They're not sharp, and they're not working hard enough. They're letting themselves down. They're letting their manager down. It's not good enough. You watch what Newcastle do to us this weekend. It's not going to be good. I'm not saying they're going to blow them out, but Newcastle 3 points. Mark it down.
Like your spy cam watching you
we have-
change in your room.
We have different reasons for thinking that, and certainly a different hot take on our win. Oh, that's not good. Our win
JP's gone.
over.
Is that enough?
Yeah, fuck him. I am surprised to hear you say that, but I think we agree that
Me too.
Newcastle might be a challenge
I
for us.
thought, honestly, Paul, if we were sharp, we should have. I think Luke said it. Should have beat them 3 or 4-0. Like, honestly, I just thought. I think we're a pace or two off it. You can see the potential is there.
Alexander.
You gotta get these 5 to 10 yard 1-2 passes right. You gotta pick up your man, and there's still
I was
not
trying to
putting
segue us on
that
from this.
shift
I don't know,
in.
you're-
Oh,
it's like
sorry.
you're kinda like
The work ethic is still
hammer
not
away.
there. It's not
sometimes
there.
the nail is in the board.
Sorry.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Sorry,
it can just
passionate about
be
that one.
good. That's
No, but
great.
let's talk about Newcastle just a little longer. I'm Jack.
Yeah. Tell us more about how Man United suck and every team they play is going to beat them. That's like the running theme of all your predictions when Man United plays. Like, oh, we're
No, just the way they played the last couple of games wasn't good enough.
He can do that when he wears knitwear like that. So
yeah, he's beautiful. He's a handsome man. Southampton are going to host West Ham in a game that I think is
boring.
Boring.
I don't know. I think West Ham will come good again.
They've been playing better.
Yeah, but you're dumb when it comes to West Ham. You think West Ham is like a good-looking.
I think David Moyes. I think David
you don't
Moyes
see
is a
the
good
sound
coach.
it makes when it runs. Like
I've just realized, JP, your neck and head is like a thumb. You've got a
Dude,
thumb for a neck and head.
It is giant.
It is massive. It really is, isn't it?
pretty
Sorry, I know. Like
girthy.
that's more interesting than talking about this game. That's how I feel.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Plus, it has to be said, Southampton are just not good. Like
They're just
it's less about West Ham. It's more about Southampton just not being very.
Is this
good.
the last season that Ward-Prowse remains there? Is someone
Yes.
picking him up this summer?
He has to leave.
Surely.
He has to leave.
Oh.
We'll probably
see.
talk about that transfer.
Liverpool are going to host Man City in a game that should be so exciting. It should be so optimistic for the league to see something fun and exciting. But
I don't.
Yeah. It
They
feels
had
like
a good confidence boost today against Rangers. 7-1 in the end. So they scored a lot of goals.
Yeah, but that's a practice game, right? That's not a real game for them.
It is, but that's what you do. You have warm-up games to kind of get you prepped, and that was not to shit on Rangers, but I don't know. Haaland will be back. He dropped Haaland for the midweek Champions League finally, and I'm sure Haaland was probably like outside just raging. But I think, I don't see any issues here. Liverpool have a lot of problems and
a lot of
it's
injuries,
a shame, really.
right? Like
it's a shame.
is Trent like their whole thing is Robertson and Trent up the wing. I think they're both. Is Trent still injured or is he back for this one?
Trent's gone for a couple of weeks, mate. He's out for 3 or 4 weeks.
Diaz is injured.
That might not be the worst
Diaz
thing. He's been
injured.
playing so badly.
He has been bad, but
And you don't need a wing back against
the saving grace for this game has always been that Man City are, if they're exposed by anything, it's a counterattack. That's always been their Achilles heel. Nobody can really apply it on a regular, and it's a very dangerous game you end up playing. But Liverpool are, on paper, they should be one of the best counter-attacking setups that you can get in the Premier League. They don't always play that way because nobody really gives them that opportunity to do that. This is one of the few games where they can unearth that style of play. But this is such a weak, toothless, limping in version of Klopp's Liverpool that
for sure.
I don't want to say foregone conclusion by any stretch, but
foregone conclusion.
How good would it be for the league though if Liverpool won this game though? Like it would be great.
Oh, I
It'd be
think
huge for Arsenal.
And I'm a United fan, but how good would it be just in general if they showed up and did exactly what Paul just said, like kind of like they did in the Charity Shield? Like it'd be awesome, and it's not unfathomable. I just think it definitely falls into the highly unlikely category, right?
Yeah.
Can you spell it? It's a great word.
I would settle for an entertaining game. I would settle if I just saw an entertaining game, even if it was entertaining 80 minutes and then City pulled away.
Do you guys think it's going to be like a blowout for City, or?
I think it's got the making.
I don't think so. I think Holland can get 1 or 2, but I don't know if I see City getting like 4 or 5 goals. I can see like a 3-1 win or a 2-0 win. But
anytime City play football, I can see 4 or 5 goals. So I don't think there's I could see them put 4 against Real Madrid. I don't think the way they play, the players they have, and remember this, in the Champions League, they could have been a number up and they missed, they had a goal disallowed, Morris missed a penalty, there's 2 chances. Like they make so many opportunities and they're all playing so damn well. Like this could be 5-0, 5.
Like I don't know any player right now at Liverpool that could stop KDB. And
exactly,
Haaland's having a great season, all that shit. He's the focal point, all that shit. But like he is getting these goals because KDB is like he goes to midfield, he plays wide, he's just on like this next level. And I think the only way any team is going to have any chance to stop him is if they basically man mark him, just shadow him the entire game. I still have yet to see anybody even try it, but I think
I don't know if there's a player that has been this progressively good for years. Like I genuinely am putting KDB in at least the top 3 midfielders in the last 20 years of the Premier League. He is just every year he gets better, and he seems to play a game and nothing seems to phase him. Have you seen it's the balls he delivers? They don't make sense outside of the boot, like the curl around a player. Like it's frightening what he can do.
So here's a question. So for all of these years, it's always been the same 3 names. It's been Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes. Is KDB up on that wall now? With
he's better than Lampard.
I think he is. I think he's got. Well, Lampard has the most goals from midfield. He's so good. I think he is in that conversation. Especially, he's got 5 titles. Yeah, how can he not be?
If he gets a Champions League, he's up there with the rest of them. He's up there with the Steven Gerrard. He's up there. Like, he doesn't have the amount of titles, Scholes.
I think he supersedes it. I think he
right
supersedes them all. I genuinely, I prime, like it's a bigger point. I think prime KDB, I'd take over all of those people you just mentioned. They're all phenomenal.
I don't know that I would disagree with you, if I'm being honest. I really think I might as well.
That's a hard discussion.
I'm going to feel the vomit in my throat when I say this.
I know, because you want to take Paul. What
Steven Gerrard did not play on good teams.
It's true.
That is true.
Like, when you look at his career and what he achieved on the teams he achieved it under the multiple managers that weren't great, like time has shown they weren't great, his accomplishments are extraordinary. KDB is a fantastic player. He's the best player to play in the Premier League for at least like last 5 seasons. Is he in the conversation? I think he is for sure. I just think you can't separate the roots that run so deep under a Pep Guardiola squad and system that he plugs into.
That is true.
Whereas Steven Gerrard I hate it. He did a lot. He did a lot more by himself.
Held Liverpool
Lampard and Scholes were on very good teams that won titles, won Champions Leagues.
But he's not Harry Winks.
He's not Harry Winks. With that lovely reminder that he's not Harry Winks, I think that's our show, everybody. Thanks for coming out. We are the North End Premier League podcast. If you've been watching us, thank you for watching us. Please like and subscribe. Alex. We are very close to 300 subs, and my understanding is once you hit 300 subs, you can actually make the retirement money I've been dreaming of making, and we can finally move this show to a small bar on the island of Costa Rica. Except for JP, who will stay in California because we need the weather updates. That's why he can't make it
weekly.
So we are like 10 subs away from that retirement plan that I've been dreaming of.
Can we just ask people that we know just to do it? Like, goddamn, let's just go there. Let's just, by the end of the week, there's no reason that we can't. JP, let's make sure all the lads are doing it. And
is this like your backward confession of that you haven't done that?
Man, I've done it. One of the guys. So when when Aiden kicked off about JP's 5 Villa things and him moaning about Steven Gerrard, he's like, He says, I don't get this. Who's this JP guy is? I'm like, well, fuck me. Way to say that you don't listen to the pod, buddy. You know. And he's like, oh, I should. And I was like, you're dead to me, but I also understand.
You should probably hit him up and say, hey, you should probably follow it now that we've had another game, and he's probably
listen. All I'm gonna say is, there's a lot of good soccer podcasts out there. As long as you're not listening to James Sharman talk about football, if you're one of those people and you're coming here and you're listening, just go back to there. We don't want you.
It's harder for us because we're not a team specific podcast, right? But you know what? We're doing the best we can, and we're doing well.
JP hates Talk Sports so much.
I hate them, and I've watched them so much in the last 2 days.
So clickbait.
You don't love Gabby on there?
They still have the funniest. Okay, it's not an invitation to shit on them. They still have the funniest line I've ever heard to describe any sports team when they describe Tottenham as all fart and no poo.
And I
will forever love them for that.
Does anybody else actively root against Spurs just because of Brian? Like, I find it. It's incessant with me. It's so aggressive now. I just want them to lose. Yeah,
genuinely.
He's driven me nuts over the years that I'm like literally anti-Spurs everything.
We're talking about Holland, and he'll be like, "But Kane would have missed that goal."
Like any you've never met anyone in football, any of your mates, anyone you know that can take any conversation about football and twist forced it into a Spurs conversation.
Luke does it too, pretty bad.
No, nowhere near. I don't even notice it with Luke. Brian does it every single time. And he always says, not to bring it back to Spurs. What do you mean not to? It's all you do.
Yeah, Brian Ireland.
Okay.
And on that note,
Dave, don't get excited. Don't
I know.
get too
I need
excited.
to calm down.
Okay, calm down.
Breathe. Someone get him a wet towel.
Be the color of the sweater. Be the caramel
I
khaki.
need
Be the
to.
caramel
I
khaki.
need to go change my
What would Roger
antibiotics.
Federer do? Ask yourself that. What would Roger Federer do?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's leave. We've had enough.
Gentlemen, say bye.
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 Rock and roll.
This is the North End.